Okay, we are recording. So we've
Fantastic.
officially started. I want to thank you all again for coming to our speaker presentation. Like I said, this is the largest group that we've had so far. And I think that's definitely a reflection of our speaker. She's such a dynamic personality. She's such an amazing speaker. She has an awesome bio. So I'm very honored to have you speak with us, Pam, about your personal journey and share with us and help us.
Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, so I'm on.
You are on, girl. This is all you.
All right, fantastic. Well, first of all, I want to thank everybody for being here. This really means so much to me to be able to be in this position to share what I've learned over all of these years is what I'm super passionate about doing and very excited to do. I would say for the past 5 years since I've been in complete recovery, my aim is to help others and to let them know that there's a light at the end of this long, dark, horrible tunnel, and recovery is possible. Honestly, I never thought I would be myself again. Going through what I went through for 4.5 years, but I'm happy to share with you that I am a better version of who I was previously. I think it's true, you know, hardships we go through in life kind of make us stronger. So my goal with this inspirational speaking career is to help stomp out the stigma of mental illness and to also break down the barriers. They're pretty much one and the same. So, you know, I'm very good, obviously, with sharing my story. I have no shame in sharing that, you know, what I went through. And I think it's sad to me that, you know, physical illness and mental illness are treated so differently. And as much as we try to advocate, and we have, and we will continue to do that, you know, it's just something that I think, and I think, honestly, I think it's about fear. I think people fear having a mental health issue, even more so than they do a physical issue. And the reason is, which you'll see as I go on, you know, there's no silver bullet. There's no perfect answer. And so anyway, I just wanted to also thank you, Jessica. You have been so amazing to work with. It's been so much fun. You've been so responsive, even your daughter getting her boo-boo on her leg. So I'm so grateful for everything that you've done, you know, up to this point.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
So Jessica, you don't know me, and I think there's people on this call that don't know me. And then, you know, I've got best friends on this call as well. And regardless of just meeting me now or knowing me growing up, you would think to yourself, oh yeah, right, sure. You know, Pam's depressed. I mean, come on, you know, Pam is the queen of fun. Okay, see, I have my little tiara here, and I am the queen of fun, right? Okay, let's see. Hold on. Why is my thing not working? My video. Okay. So actually, this was supposed to come up before the Queen of Fun, because this is something that's so important. It's so important. I don't care if you're a man, a woman, or a child. It's okay to say you're not okay and ask for help. You know, especially what's going on now with COVID-19 and, you know, just in general, I want to make sure that people know that NAMI is here for you. You know, there's a lifeline on the other side, and everybody is here for you. And it's okay to express that you're not okay and ask for help. That's what I did. So again, this is what it was supposed to look like. So all my friends see me, or have seen me all these years, as the Queen of Fun, right? Look, I even got a sash. I wanted to be Miss America. I remember when I was little, like watching Miss America and wanting to be her, but instead, I guess my sash says Queen of Fun. So how in the world does the Queen of Fun, how is it that she's not able to get out of bed, that she is so severely depressed that she can't eat, and even more so, somebody who's so social with people all the time, it's part of her work as well, just totally isolating herself, right? And I know for those of you who have been in this position and have struggled with depression and anxiety, or you may have family members and you're the caretaker, which is equally as difficult. In fact, my husband's on the screen here, and so is my son. And I will be talking a little bit about them, and my mom, and my sister who didn't get in. But I had so much support to get through this horribly difficult time in my life. You know, I consider myself so very lucky to have had all the support that I had. But in 2010, my crown came off, right? And my little sash came off too. And my life began a downward spiral. I had no idea how to climb out of that spiral. And what happens, you know, when you go through a depression, your self-esteem pretty much goes out the window, right? Constantly second guessing your self-worth. I literally couldn't get out of bed. I felt like I had concrete blocks on my feet, and I spent a lot of time with the covers over me, but I wasn't sleeping. And I wasn't sleeping or reading or eating or anything. I was just laying there, obsessed and ruminating about how I felt, and sweating, clammy, just miserable. My heart beating so fast, it felt like it was going to just jump out of my chest. So, and then of course, I was so totally self-absorbed, I really couldn't be there, you know, for anybody, whether it was my child, my husband. The feeling of dread that I had every single day that darkened my doorstep was something that I hope and pray I never have to feel again. It was just probably, you know, obviously the darkest time in my life. And my husband was amazing. He would tell me to just put one foot in front of the other. He was so very patient. Sam, those of you who know him, who's here, he was 13. So he was in high school, just started the baseball team, and there were tons of events to go to. And the thing about depression that people do, and I did too, is you can hide it. It's like a frown turned upside down, right? So you can hide how you're feeling on the inside, and you can have this fake exterior smile, so that people don't really know how badly you're suffering. So I tried to go to every game and, you know, be as supportive as I could as a mom. And my son was extremely supportive as well. I'll never forget one day when I was laying on the couch, because I would be in bed and I would hear the door opening for Sam to come in from school. I quickly jumped. Now that's when I could jump out of bed, to act like I wasn't, you know, so in such a bad state. I quickly ran out of bed, you know, threw on my clothes, walked to the door, said, "Oh, hi, how was your day?" Sam ran upstairs, boom, back in bed, you know. So needless to say, this was definitely a time in my life that, you know, I'm so grateful that I've worked through. So I want to share with you a little bit about how depression feels for those of you who've not been there, and I hope and pray you never are. But if you look at that picture, it's so indicative of how I felt. You feel very isolated. You feel very alone. You feel very ashamed and embarrassed and exhausted because you're never really sleeping. And I love what this says on this slide because it's very true. Depression is such a cruel punishment. There's no fevers, no rashes, no blood tests to send people scurrying in concern. It's just the slow erosion of yourself, as insidious as cancer. And like cancer, it's essentially a solitary experience. It's a room in hell with only your name on the door. And, you know, for those of you who know what I'm talking about, I remember saying to Mike, I wish it was cancer. I mean, God forbid, right? But I wish it was cancer because at least that way people would understand. They know what it means, you know? And all these people would be coming here with food and, you know, so on. But this whole mental illness thing, people, it's very hard to wrap your head around. So, so this depicts what I perceive as, you know, there's two schools of thought, I guess you would say. There's the nature versus nurture, right? Like, how do you get this disease, this mental disease? Is it biological? Is it nature? Is it how you're nurtured? Is it a combination of both? I think most of us know that there's definitely a biological predisposition for depression. And growing up, so I'm going to share with you, you know, growing up, I grew up in a home with a dad who suffered from major depressive disorder in the 1960s. And you can imagine what it's like today, what it was like back then, right? Talk about taboo. But that's my dad when I was 5 years old. I remember he was admitted to Michael Reese Hospital, and back then they called it a mental institution, right? We don't call that today, but you can imagine how scary that might have been and how much anxiety, you know, came around having that as one of your role models, one of your strong role models. I remember my grandma, my mom's mom, came to stay with us when my dad was in the hospital. So it was a really trying time, you know, as a kid. And I think I was always somebody who pushed down the fear and just almost became this, you know, overzealous, happy-go-lucky person that really, really wasn't. But don't get me wrong. I had the most amazing dad in the entire world. So my point being that you can have a mental illness and still be an amazing person, right? So my dad struggled, but he went to work every day with this dread and anxiety. And then he would come home and he always had time to engage with my sister and I. We went to Kitty Land. We played miniature golf. We went outside. We lived in a big apartment building in Chicago, and we went downstairs and played hit the penny on the sidewalk. We played cards. We built houses and forts with cards. So although my dad's biology, you know, was definitely affected, that I think speaks to the fact that mental illness is just one very small part of someone, okay? It's not the whole being, obviously. Also, from a biological standpoint, my dad had one brother, and Uncle Chuck died by suicide at age 56. And my dad died of a massive heart attack at age 58. And I think most of us who are educated in, the mental health field understand that cardiovascular issues are very linked to depression. So I think what it says is that at least a quarter of cardiac patients suffer from depression, and adults with depression develop cardiac issues. I personally also developed cardio issues during this ordeal, but I'm very grateful because I have an amazing cardiologist. I'm doing really well, and he said I'm no more in risk for COVID-19 complications than a healthy person. So that's pretty exciting. And my mom, on the flip side, is the eternal optimist. The glass is always half full. Talk about the life of the party. My mom is going to be a very ripe age. And at this ripe age, she still goes to jazz clubs when there's no COVID-19. People know her as the quintessential fan. And she just is amazing. I mean, she's an amazing, amazing person. And when I talk to her on the phone, she sounds like she's 18. And so, that's great. I had half that was a little bit challenging. And then I guess I got the other half of positivity as well. I was the first one to finish college in my family. And I remember not having a clue what I wanted to do or be when I grew up. I went to the University of Illinois, and my girlfriend Esty and I were both equally as confused. So we went from college to college to college trying to figure out, what do we want to be when we grow up? So we ended up at the College of Applied Life Sciences. And I took all of the psychology classes, high-level psychology, and I took high-level sciences. And what that would give me as an alternative, I was going to become certified as a recreational therapist. And I could have worked with people that had mental illness or people with physical disabilities. Well, like so many people who have challenges in their lifetime, I picked working with people that had mental health issues. And my first position outside of college was working at the Illinois State Psychiatric Institute, ISPI, a state hospital, very similar to one where my father was. I think what you find is that people who have struggled are somehow trying to understand, what they've gone through, what their family members have gone through. I was a part of a multidisciplinary treatment team. There was the chief psychiatrist, 2 psychologists, a social worker. My boss was a music therapist. I was the recreational therapist, and there was an occupational therapist. And we would sit in the room, which we called the community room, with all of our patients, discussing how they were going to live, better together. And then we would leave the room and process the meetings. And I was 22, I think, 21 or 22. And I remember thinking to myself, oh my gosh, these people that are processing this meeting have equally as many mental health issues, it seems, as the patients that we're dealing with here. So I think that what I learned is, people that get into this field oftentimes get into it for a reason. Not always, but oftentimes get into it, for a reason. So when in 2010, I went through this severe depression, there were definitely some triggers. First of all, I was menopausal, let's just put it all out there. And I think that triggered it a lot. I was dealing with some personal situations as well. And it was almost like one perfect storm, that just, boom, put me down. And when that happened, I really had no idea what to do. I mean, I had no clue what to do because there's, you know, first of all, you have to deal with insurance. What does your insurance cover? Most insurance companies do not cover mental health, right? So those of us who are lucky enough to be able to pay out of pocket have a lot more options, than folks that aren't able to do that. And again, my life work of advocacy from this point forward, I hope involves, getting involved and, trying to be involved in some of these bills and things that will affect, mental health as being equally as thought of from an insurance standpoint as physical health as well. So what did I do? Well, one of my girlfriends had a psychiatrist, and I called him. And then I had also contacted a psychologist. So as you can see on the left, the top picture there, it is so confusing. There's so many, different types of people with so many different schools of thought that you're really kind of clueless as to what you should be doing. I went to the first psychiatrist for 3 years, and some of my best friends and my husband kept saying, look, I mean, you've given this enough time, and I was diagnosed with treatment-resistant depression, but you kind of are like, I don't want to have to go through this story all over again with someone else. I'm sure those of you who've been through this, can relate to that too. But I ended up, going, and then I ended up switching psychiatrists. And fortunately, he is a neuropharmacological psychiatrist. So he has a different understanding of the medications, I think, than maybe some as well. And that was a blessing for me. So then you see a Xanax. The next picture I'm going to show you, I'm going to just tell you right now, is going to be a little bit shocking. Because there are so many different kinds of medicines, and the medication is an art, it's not a science, right? So what you put into your body and the side effects that you get can be daunting. If you look at that wallet, I put that there because in 2014, Mike and I spent $40,000 out of pocket on my mental health treatment. And needless to say, that obviously took a big toll. I mean, on our finances. I mean, it's huge. It's huge. If you look to the bottom left, there are so many different types of therapies: cognitive behavioral therapy, psychodynamic, there's psychoanalytic, there's a million different kind of therapies. And I tried many. Along with, you're going to love this one. I'm Jewish, right? But I even went to church. I mean, I was just like desperate. I was going to do anything. Maybe if I go to church, I'll feel better, right? So I was grasping at straws. I was going to the DBSG support groups, the depression bipolar support groups. I talked to so many different people. And so, it was just a work in progress. But if you look at the lady, down on the right-hand side, that is how I felt so much of the time, and so much, while I was going through this. So don't let this next figure freak you out. A lot of these are the same. So let me just show you this. Okay, so obviously that's pretty dramatic, right? And you can see it says medication management is an art, not a science, right? So I actually, to be honest with you, was in a state of wellness. I don't look like it when I took this picture, but I had saved those bottles, all those bottles, because I knew one day I was going to want to be an advocate and speaker, and I just wanted to remember, everything that I had put into my body. So everything you've seen on TV, whether it's the wind-up lady with Prestique. I don't know if you remember seeing that. She had a little thing in her back, and they wound her up, and she's supposed to start feeling better. Seroquel, Lexapro, tons of combinations, Latuda. Latuda was like $300, I think, for, a week. And so needless to say, I wasn't on that very long. But the problem with me with all these medicines is that I had treatment-resistant depression. So something might work for a few weeks and then boom, I was kind of right back down to where I had started. And, it was a lot of trial and error. But the great news is that I'm here representing NAMI, and my wellness began on the Road to Recovery walk with NAMI. So every year, the National Association of Mental Illness has a walk. And I had never been before. I asked Mike to go with me. I think he had something going on, and I was feeling okay enough to drive downtown. So I went, and it was the beginning of the end for me. A long time, but it was the beginning of the end. It was 2014. And so I walked and ended up walking with this amazing couple. And they were there on behalf of their girls, because their girls couldn't get out of bed either. And the woman was a minister, but she was just the coolest lady, and her husband was amazing. And we really connected. So every year she has a retreat at her beautiful, beautiful home, like 3 hours south of here in Goliad, Texas. And she invited me to the retreat. So that is where I met her daughter. And her daughter shared with me, about this program, this DBT program that I'm about to share with you, that I really contribute to the majority of my wellness. To be really honest with you, when push came to shove about the whole medication thing, even though I was with like the most amazing psychiatrist, at the end of the day, he wanted to put me on an MAOI inhibitor. And that means you can't drink wine and you can't eat a lot of food. And I said, I'm tortured enough. I'm not giving up my wine, and I'm not giving up my food. I'm not going on one of those things that you're telling me to go on. He goes, well, what do you want to do? And I'm like, well, I haven't been on Prozac for like a million years. I haven't been on that because I had one episode before. And so he put me on Prozac. He put me on nortriptyline, and I think I've been on those two drugs for the past 5 years, and have been in complete recovery for the past 5 years. But honestly, what I contribute, the majority of my wellness to, which, a lot of you, and I guess I really do need to, bring into play here that so many of us that are dealing with this COVID-19, even the strongest person can feel like they're, losing it, quite honestly. And, people are isolating, they're losing jobs, there's income issues. I mean, there's so much that this pandemic has taken from people. And I guess I don't know if it was U.S. World Report or whatever, said that 45% of people that are in the United States, they have reported, mental health issues dealing with COVID-19. And most of it is stress around what's going to happen to their loved ones or themselves, of course. But research shows that depression, anxiety, and just stress are something, those are all things that lead to higher rates of substance abuse and suicide. So to me, the skills that I'm going to share with you now, these DBT skills, and let me explain what DBT means. My people that are on here, that are in my group, I love y'all, but everybody knows I'm always laughing and I'm saying, I still don't get what DBT means. I can't even explain what it means. So let me just tell you what it is. DBT are skills to cope. It teaches you how to cope and change unhealthy behaviors. It's a type of cognitive behavioral therapy that tries to identify your thoughts and feelings that are negative patterns and pushes you forward to positive behavioral changes. Don't ask me to say that again. You can see I had to read it. I think it's kind of hard to describe. I just know it works great for me. So, so yes, I think personally, the skills that I'm going to share with you, I am a huge believer that every human on earth should have to go through this program. It doesn't feel like you're with a psychologist. It feels like you're learning skills to cope with life. And I think all of us know that, everything that's going on in this crazy world, these shootings and, school events and, just constant things that we're hearing on the news, there's a lot of skills that people need from the time they're 5 years old in school. So another one of the things that I'm hoping to do is be an advocate to get some of these skills in the education world. I think it'll probably start more with private school versus public because they're more open. But, it would be my dream at the end of the day to see kids learn a lot of these skills. And I know from my sister who's a teacher that they're already doing some mindfulness. They're already doing some, good stuff with the kids. I'm just hoping that will continue. Okay. So what DBT has allowed me to do is it has allowed me to learn to ride the waves of my emotions skillfully. Okay. I love this visual. In part because I am so relaxed and soothed around water. I just love water. It just makes me feel relaxed being on the beach, seeing the waves and the beautiful sky and so forth. But, the reality is that our emotions can get the better of us on many occasions, all of us. Even me, of course, obviously. I mean, I'm certainly not perfect at this. When triggers come up, I am the first to tell you I can, not necessarily be skillful, right? But at least I know the skills and I can, just try to do it better the next time, right? Okay, so in my opinion, DBT skills are skills for a life worth living. And I want to share with you what I do every day, which I will. But there's really 4 modules to DBT. As you see, the central module is referred to as mindfulness. And mindfulness, there's so many different ways to do things mindfully. And I will talk to you about some of those ways. But it's really about being in the here and now, being in the present. We're taught all of our lives that it's positive to multitask, right? It's great that we have our phones, 24/7. People can reach us all the time. In my opinion, we are so overstimulated with all of that, that being present is an art. It's something you really have to work at. So mindfulness is something, that I work at on an ongoing business every single day. And then the next little section there is called interpersonal effectiveness. And I remember when I first started, there's this big, huge book that was published by the founder of DBT. Her name is Martha Linehan. And, it goes over all of these skills. And I remember thinking to myself, oh, I'm interpersonally effective. Look, I've got this great job. I can talk to people. I can get up in front of people and talk. Come on, I'm interpersonally effective. Well, what I realized as I was going through this program is no. There's a lot to learn in that realm as well, because for me, I can be off-putting to people. I can be overly direct, to a point that's not really very healthy and positive, somewhat dogmatic in my response, to things. So I've learned skills on, how to kind of step back and not be as direct and dogmatic as I can, and, learn to really listen to other people. Emotional regulation on the right side. When we go through depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, personality disorder, whatever it is, our emotions are totally dysregulated. Our brains are totally dysregulated. Um, you know, Honestly, one of my girlfriends who's probably on the call remembers going to Trader Joe's with me when I was in the severe state. And it really scared her because I was so foggy, I couldn't even focus on the vegetables. I mean, it was scary to her because I was so out of it, I guess you would say. So learning to regulate my emotions was huge, and I'm going to share a couple of skills in that regard. Distress tolerance. Fortunately, I never had a panic attack, but I know they sound absolutely horrible. So these skills help you to regulate your emotions, and there's some really great skills to kind of snap you out of, being in a position where you're just overwrought with your emotions. So let me go on to the first skill. Remember, we talked about mindfulness, and that mindfulness is about paying attention on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally, right? And do I have this? I don't. Okay, I guess I left it somewhere else. I'm going to share with you my mindfulness practices, my self-care, and so a couple of the skills under mindfulness are self-care and non-judgmental stance. And I'm going to share both of those with you. So self-care for me begins at the beginning of the day. As soon as I get into the shower, I begin my self-care routine, and I pray for everyone I know that is struggling, for the world, for COVID-19, for whatever the case may be. And this is all happening in my head, right? And then after I've done that, I go through my gratefulness. And I honestly think gratefulness is such a huge part of wellness. Focusing on what you're grateful for versus what you don't like, is really huge. So that's the second part of my shower. And I have a scrub, like a really aromatic scrub that I put on when I do my gratefulness and I do my deep breathing. And my husband's shaving, probably thinking, oh my God, what is she doing? But it's all good. He's happy, believe me. So the self-care really helps to, get you in a place both emotionally, spiritually, physically, mentally, in a place of calm, I guess you would say. The next step for me is meditation. So I have this beautiful candle and I have this really comfy rug, and I sit down with my candle. I've already lathered myself with yummy smelling lotion, and I go through my my meditation. And I meditate on skills because that way I keep them first and foremost in my brain every single day. I'm going to ask you, and what's hard about this is, you're not there with people. I'm not usually one that does a presentation that just talks without having feedback. But maybe in the chat box, Jessica, if you could let me know, if you think about it yourself, who is it that you're the most judgmental about? Maybe people can chat in, and Jessica, maybe you can share with me what it is that they say.
I've got two answers already that says myself.
Yeah. Right?
Oh, a third one.
Yeah. Think about it. I mean, it's amazing. We are our own worst critic, right? It's unbelievable I'm so glad while I was practicing for this, I was listening to Brene Brown. Everybody knows Brene Brown. And I was listening to her talk on courage and failure. And it really helped me for today. I thought, okay, it's okay if I fail, right? I've got courage to do this. And that's what it's about. So, I think it's kind of a good thing. But judgment, or let's talk about judgment. We are so judgmental of ourselves, and I know you all feel the same way, right? I'm too fat. My skin sags. My stomach bulges. I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough. The list goes on and on and on. So in DBT, we learn not only not to be judgmental of others, but to not judge ourselves. How do we do that? We treat ourselves as compassionately as we would our best friend. Think about that. So if your friend came up to you and said, hey, oh my God, look at me, I look awful, I'm going to give this presentation and my arms look fat, all that stuff, what would you say? You'd say, no, you're going to do great. You look great, everything's good, So it's all about, DBT is all about changing your thoughts that affect your feelings and your behavior. So if you take those negative thoughts and make them positive, it will change how you feel. So I love these two skills. There's many, many more, but I love these two and I use them all the time. So let's go on to the next slide. So what do you guys think this skill is? Maybe you can put in the chat box. What do you think this skill is? Anybody? Anybody have an idea?
I think it's about tolerance.
Tolerance. Tolerance is so important with COVID-19, isn't it?
Judy says, know your limits.
Boundaries. Yeah. So this is about boundaries, setting our boundaries. We're all here together, right? We're all self-contained in our homes around the people that we love and hate the most, right? No, but sincerely, being with the same people all day, every day is definitely a challenge, no matter how much you like your spouse and children, right? So you do need to set boundaries while you are, self or isolating or whatever they're telling us to do, staying at home. So a couple of the boundaries that I set every morning after I do all my meditation and I've had my coffee, I go outside as long as it's not raining. I do not bring my phone. I don't bring my computer. I bring nothing electronic. And I literally sit in the chair in my backyard and I look at the grass and the trees and the sky and the clouds. And I ponder what it is that I'm grateful about and for. And again, that's my time. I don't want anybody interrupting my time. That is my time. So think about the boundaries that you need to set for yourself, not only in COVID-19, but with people in your life, with work, with family, with friends. Boundaries are something that I think are really important for us to set. And it makes us, I think it helps us clearly emotionally as well. Okay, so these are some of the emotional regulation skills. I've picked out just a couple. So checking the facts. Checking the facts for me is huge because before DBT, I was a major catastrophizer. What does that mean? I was constantly worrying about the future. Should I do this? Can I do this? Can't I do this? I was constantly catastrophizing. Or if I got sick, okay, I'm going to die. I really went to these crazy extremes, right? And makes sense. I observed a lot of that growing up, right? So I have learned now to check the facts before really moving too far into emotional upheaval. And, you know, with COVID-19, it's scary. I mean, the facts vary based on what channel you're listening to, right? So it's all unknown. But I think, I know for me, you know, I basically, what I've done is I've taken all this information and shared with my personal family. You know, we've kind of decided how we're going to move forward, and we have, because Houston is moving forward, and I think we're 25% open. We've definitely gotten out and we've done things. We've done things safely. We've had masks, but we've also been with people. For example, yesterday for Memorial Day, Sam's best friend and his dad have this beautiful farm. So we went there. We got to ride on four-wheelers and it was beautiful. We were in the pond. We were not constantly 6 feet apart, but you know, I don't know. I mean, it's just kind of what you do. A little bit, you go a little bit further, I guess you would say. I've sat outside with a friend at a restaurant. Yeah, so I mean, we've been doing, Mike and I take a walk every single night after work. That's something I look forward to. And, you know, do you wear a mask? Don't you wear a mask? You know, well, we don't. So checking the facts is an important skill for me. And then opposite to emotion action. And what that looked like for me, remember I told you I literally couldn't get out of bed? It helped force me to get out of bed. And when I did opposite to emotion action, meaning my emotions are telling me no, but my brain is going to tell me yes. When I did, and I got up and I got out and I showered and got dressed, I felt so much better. So there's so many things in COVID-19 too, you know, like if you're isolating and you feel isolated, I really feel bad for the people that are by themselves. I mean, that's really tough. So, you know, you've got to call friends or family members and, you know, let people know what you need. You know, if you're feeling upset, watch Grace and Frankie, something funny, you know, just put yourself in a state of mind that isn't going to help you go down that rabbit hole. So those are some of the emotional regulation skills that I use all the time. And then lastly, the distress tolerance skills. So distress tolerance is these are skills that kind of help snap you out of feeling really, really bad. And for example, if you're somebody who struggles with panic attacks, you can literally fill your sink with ice and water, and it's like a temperature that kind of almost shocks your system. There's just a lot of skills that you can use when you're in distress. One of them is living one day at a time and really getting back to your breath and giving yourself the time that you need, you know, to just kind of wind down. And whether it's looking at a beautiful picture like this or taking a walk, or one day at a time, one moment at a time. I remember when my sister came to visit and I was in my worst state, she said, just take one step at a time, 1 second at a time. And that's what I had to do. This other one I think is kind of funny. You see that, I love it though. And I want you to kind of do this with me. So if your lips are just kind of normal and you're thinking of something not so great, and you take your mouth, let me just show you this at first. You take your mouth into a half smile. Go back and forth. Go from half smile to sad. Half smile to sad. It actually changes the chemistry in your brain. So there's so many, I don't know if you could feel it, Could you feel it? Could you feel the difference at all? Well, practice if you can't, but you know, there's just so many wonderful skills that relate to that as well. So this is just for you to take a look at for managing coronavirus. You know, I say avoid excessive media exposure, connect with those people that are positive that you can connect with. Take some time for yourself, some self-care, a bubble bath, whatever it is, just take some time for yourself. Practice self-care. Your kids, I mean, Jessica, I know you're home with your daughter, and it's amazing. I can't believe you do what you do with your daughter there. It's incredible. But I'm sure, because I heard you actually, you know, when she heard herself, you know, just reassuring them that they're safe, that you're there to help them through, share your own coping skills, limit their exposure to the news. And I think probably one of the most important things, and all of us would probably find that to be the case, is routine. Try to set up some routine. Okay. So, you know, those are some examples. And before I go here, and I know time's kind of almost up, right? It's probably almost up. So I'm going to save my little poem that I was going to read for another time, for another event. And with that, just tell you how much I appreciate you being here. And I hope that some of these skills are helpful to you. You know, it's made a world of difference in my life. I have been well for 5 years, and I am so grateful every single day for my mental health and well-being that I just think, you know, you go through some stuff in life and you end up getting a different perspective. So with that in mind, Saturday, May 30th, is the walk, the NAMI. What is it called, Jessica? It's the NAMI Greater Houston, no, NAMI Walk. NAMI
Walks Your Way, Greater Houston virtual event.
Yes,
It's a mouthful.
NAMI Walks Your Way virtual event. Can you just tell them what that means, the NAMI Walks Your Way part?
Absolutely. So this year, like everything else, we've had to make some adjustments because of the coronavirus COVID-19 situation. So NAMI Walks Your Way means do it your way, as opposed to the traditional walk in the park, literally. Do what makes you happy, do what feels good, do what represents you and your walk and your celebration and your recovery. So I've got a friend who is a singer, and she's doing a praise and worship service. I've got a friend whose team is doing like a brunch. We've got another team that's doing what do they call it? Coffee and crafts. It's a sober team, so they're not doing a sip and paint, so they're doing coffee and crafts. We've got yoga, we've got working out, we've got video games, biking. There's so many different ways that you can express yourself during the walks. That's where we're calling it NAMI Walks Your Way. So it's an amazing opportunity. And because it is virtual, there's no boundaries. So a lot of times we have people who go, oh, I wish my cousin in New York could participate, or oh, I wish so-and-so could participate. Everybody can participate no matter where they are. And we have so many tools like Zoom and FaceTiming, the Facebook Messenger app that will bring us all together, so that even if your team decides not to do something in one place, you guys can still be connected. And that's what basically the whole event is about, making sure that nobody feels alone and that we are all connected, especially now during this situation.
Thanks so much. I appreciate you sharing that. So yeah, so at 11 o'clock on Saturday, all of us are going to be doing something. So I'm going to be walking in my, I have a beautiful path that I walk down. So I have friends that are actually coming and are going to walk with us at 11 o'clock. I think 11 is when all of us are doing something, whatever it may be. And hopefully it'll be a time, where you can really celebrate and think about, your mental health. Be grateful for your physical health, your mental health. And if you're struggling, know that there is going to be a light at the end of the tunnel, and we're here for you. So I'm super excited to say that I set a goal of 1,500 personally to be a walk star. And I'm almost at, I think I'm over 1,300 for me. So I'm super excited about that. And I am so grateful. Thank all of you that have contributed. Really, really appreciate it. And then from this point forward, I've pretty much met my goal. So now you can just join my team. And yeah, so I'll just, I'll put out where all you do is you just Google NAMI Walk Your Way Greater Houston and go on it'll say fundraiser search, put my name in and go on my team page. And then you can plan on being on my team. Well, let's see. Do I have anything else here? Yes. I love this picture that I saw because, it says mental health for all, and that's representative of, I'm sure, some of the people that are going to be walking, this week. So anyway, that's about it. I appreciate everyone being here. I think I went a little over time, and I don't know that I left time for Q&A, but what's up?
We got started at a little late, about 5 minutes late, so I still think we have a little time if nobody minds. If not, if you do have to leave us, I will email Pam the recording so you will be able to see anything that you're missed. So if someone does have to go, thank you all for attending. But if not, let's hang out. Let's ask some questions. Pam has some really good stuff that I'm sure you all would like to comment on.
Yeah, so feel free to ask any questions. No questions, not a good question, right? Anybody? Mike, you have any questions? I know you're just hoping and praying that I never have to go through that again, right?
That is right.
I have a couple of questions since nobody's going to speak up. I will always speak up. So we did have someone comment very early before we actually started the official presentation that they had recently lost someone because of the isolation that COVID presents. And you hit the nail right on the head when you talked about how we mask, how we hide. And she commented that, she knew he had depression because he speaks up about it, which is good, but he still hid the extent of the pain that he was experiencing. And it's very hard to get over that, like why you blame yourself, why didn't I know, why didn't I help? And I commented in the chat section that, depression is deceptive. It's deceptive to the people who are living it, and it's deceptive to the people who love that person who's living with it. But specifically for COVID, what DBI skills do you apply? Because it's easy for a healthy person to slide into a depression in this situation. So for someone else who's already predisposed to depression or anxiety, I can imagine the battle, that they're dealing with right now. So personally, what are you doing to keep yourself out of that dark place?
Are you asking me or other people?
Well, I'd like to start with you, but if other people have something to contribute, by all means.
Yeah, I'll just contribute, really quickly. Maybe hopefully somebody else has something to say, but what I've learned through this is it's really important to have a routine. I think that not having a routine can put you in a place that you don't want to be. So I've made it a point, even though I'm working at home, to get up every day by 6 o'clock and just do my normal routine. And I can't say I put makeup on every day. That I can't say. But I do my routine. Now, like I told you, I do all my self-care. I do all my prayer. I do all my gratitude. And I've maintained a routine. We have a routine. And I'm lucky because I still have a job, right? So I'm working at home. So I'm busy and I'm occupied. I think some of my friends that are in my group with me, they don't have a job right now, and it's amazing to me when I see them and I talk to them and I hear them, many of them are just really doing a great job of coping. So to me, it's all about routine and self-care.
Does anybody else have any tips they'd like to add? Anything that's helping you cope through this situation, or how you're helping others cope through this situation?
I when you were talking, it reminded me, my husband passed away, it's almost 24 years, and I didn't even think of it as depression, but as you're going through your story, I'm like, oh my God, I was really suffering from depression. And as I had two little kids, so I was fortunate that I didn't have any recourse, but to do, like you said, put one foot in front of the other and do the opposite of what my emotions were telling me to do. And I even, at some point I saw myself realizing I need to do the self-care and the gratefulness. And you said meditation. And I thought, well, I didn't do meditation, but I went jogging. But the other thing was that I was like always feeling overwhelmed. And I finally realized if I just make some little goals and just do like, oh, I got laundry done today, that was like a big victory. And just little, making little bitty, setting little goals and getting through and think, oh, I succeeded, instead of I got all these things to do and only this much of it's getting done. If I say I got this to do and I did that, that was great.
Absolutely. I think that's so true. Like those little itty bitty goals you had to set for yourself, right?
Yeah.
Anybody else? Jenny, I saw you going like this.
Well, I lost my mother in March, and being isolated and losing your mother at the same time is a little bit difficult. And I've had depression for years and years also, but something that has helped me, especially when I have a little guilt over her death and how her life ended in the last few years, just sickness though. And I have those guilt feelings. I am trying to be conscious that I'm having those guilt feelings and just try to bring up a good memory. And that's helped, because I could really spiral on that guilt and, go to a really bad place. So just knowing that I need to change my thoughts has helped. Oh, you're on mute.
Barbara, did you have something to add?
Yes, I just wanted to thank Pam, because I think I've been listening when she's been on Facebook, and one of the biggest things is doing something every day. I mean, every day I have a list, and I have made sure I have accomplished things on that list every day, and it's such a feel-good feeling. I've stepped up exercise. It's really, so thank you, Pam. I think she's muted.
Unmute. Hello, hello.
Hello.
Okay. You can hear me?
I can.
Okay. Yeah, no, thank you so much, Barbara. I know you're always at my Facebook Lives, and I appreciate it. And Jenny, thank you so much for sharing that. And, really sorry for your loss. But, one thing I can say, that I was listening to you and I heard you say about all this guilt, that you're having. And, that doesn't really serve anybody, it doesn't. And I think that we put these things on ourselves. And again, these are the thoughts. This is why, to me, DBT is so helpful, because it teaches you to say, wait a second, no. I don't need to feel guilty. I've done the best that I could do, right? I was a good daughter. I, did whatever. And, you literally have to change your thought, and that way it's going to change kind of how you feel emotionally. But yeah, I thank you for sharing, and that is a lot to go through by yourself. Wow. Yeah. All right. Well,
Before we go, I do want to talk a little bit more about NAMI Greater Houston, just as a whole. I know we did talk about the walk, and the walk is so important, not only for financial reasons, it's literally half of our budget, but also because of the awareness that it brings and the togetherness that it brings. Pam mentioned that this is how she met NAMI, And that's amazing. And I've heard so many stories like that since I've been here, that the walk has brought people together and let them know that they're not alone and helped them, you know, make it to the next step, which is what the whole organization stands for. So NAMI offers free support groups and educational programs to people who need them. Currently, most of them are available online. So please go to the website, and if you are in any type of need, and we can direct you to the right program or service that's right for you. We also have started a new warm line to assist people specifically who are dealing with mental health issues related to the COVID-19 pandemic. And by warm line, we mean that it's not a recording. They're not just going to take your information and, you know, get rid of you. They're going to talk to you. They're going to really try to get to the root of what you're going through, what we can do to help, you know, and the resources that we have available to offer you help. So that's what we mean by warm line, is that it's a warm person. It's an actual, you know, red-blooded person that's going to be on the other line waiting to talk to you. So NAMI Greater Houston as a whole, we have so many amazing programs and services. Pam mentioned, oh, I wish they would start teaching this in school. We have school-based programs. We have jail diversion programs. Did you guys know that the Harris County prison system is actually the largest mental health provider in the country? That's ridiculous, right? So we have jail diversion programs to assist in the recovery of people who are in the jail systems that are living with mental illness, and also to keep them from having a record when it's just a mental illness related offense. We work very closely with the police and the MCOT teams to try to get ahead of that situation, right? So if someone calls 911 and they specifically say, this is a mental health emergency, a team of trained professionals, people who are trained by NAMI, how to deal with mental health issues, will go and address that separately or differently rather than they would if it were not a mental health emergency, right? So if you pull up to a house with someone who's mentally ill and it's in crisis with guns drawn and lights flashing, it's only going to escalate the situation. So our training allows them to understand the sensitivities needed to de-escalate the situation calmly without further aggravating the mental health issue. So NAMI has so many programs and services available. And the bottom line of what I'm trying to say is that we are here. If you have any questions, if you need help, if you know someone who needs help, please, please, please take a look at our website, get our phone number, share it with friends, and let them know that NAMI is available.
Wonderful.
That's all.
Thank you so much, Jessica. Well, I think we've definitely overstayed our welcome here. But thank you again so much. Thanks everybody for being here. So appreciated. And, you know, feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions or whatever. So thanks so much, Jessica, too. So great to get to know you.
I know. I feel like we're BFFs now.
I know. I know. All right, all. Well, great seeing everybody, and hope you all have a good day. Nice meeting many of you. Jenny,
Hope to see you guys Saturday for our virtual NAMI walk.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Jenny, if you have no one where to walk, you can walk with me.
And NAMI has a team as well, so there's always somebody there for you.
I've got a team at Memorial Park at 11 o'clock.
Oh, good.
Awesome. Great. That's a great space to walk in.
Yeah.
You guys have a lot of fun, and be sure to post pictures on social media and send them to me so I can share them.
Okay, we'll do that.
Awesome.
All right, thanks
again, you guys.
Buddy.
Bye,
Okay, take care. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.